This is oud, or is it? This is actually agarwood, but this can be taken and turned into something that's worth about $50,000 per kilogram. So if you're interested in learning why that is and how this process goes, well guys, this in-depth video is going to do just that. So let's get into it. So I have a bunch of oud on this table, right? Wrong. I actually only have one actual oud fragrance on this table, and I'll show you that in a second. But remember that this just says amber oud in the name. This doesn't even have an oud accord. As I was saying, guys, that it doesn't contain any oud or even a woody note. It just has amber oud in the name, but that's a misnomer that isn't too uncommon. In fact, all of these, except for one, are a misnomer. This says oud mater or oud mater, as it should be actually. Then you have Carnal Desire, which has agarwood, parentheses oud listed, I think on Fragrantica. Then you have Initio Oud for Greatness, which is a synthetic oud, which is kind of disappointing because it's a $400+ fragrance. Then you have this in the Oud by Finery, which is basically like a dupe of Tom Ford's Oud Wood. And then you have this right here, which is a clone of Le Gem Fakar by Bulgari. This is Scepter Amazonite. And the only one that actually has oud is this little sample of Tom Ford Oud Voyager. Now, Tom Ford Oud Voyager uses a triple distillate oud. You mix with peonies, basically, and that's how they get their oud. Now, before I go forward, I just want to let you guys know I'm doing a giveaway in this video. So stay tuned, and you can be one of the people, or you can be the lucky person that wins this, I guess. So stay tuned and check out the video, and I'll tell you guys how you can be the lucky person to win this. Now, with that bottle to the side, let's talk about how and why oud is actually made. So like I said in the start of the video, all oud is made from agarwood, but not all agarwood is oud. Now, the reason is agarwood comes from the Aguilaria tree, and a very small percentage, I think about 2% of Aguilaria trees actually produce agarwood. And now from those 2%, the reason why you only have that small portion is because agarwood itself is not fragrant. Naturally, agarwood has no scent at all, and it's just a plain old wood. However, when it becomes infected with a mold or a fungus like Phyllopathra parasiticus, Aspergillus, Fusarium, or Penicillium, which is how we found penicillin, but one of those will infect the wood. When one of these infects the wood tries to fight off the infection, and in doing so, it releases resinous compounds. These resinous compounds contain either sesquiterpenes, which is the most abundant in these resins, which are going to be responsible for that deep, woody, long-lasting nature in oud. So that's going to be the first part of the resin and the majority of the resin, really. And then the other part of the resin are going to be phenyl ethyl chromones. Now, these are going to be the things that kind of bring out either that fruity nature, the honey nature, the animalic qualities to the oud fragrance itself. Now, the actual level of chromones, which chromones are going to come out in the fragrance itself, that is all going to vary on the region, the time of year, and, the cultures introduced in the after process, which I'm about to get into. So basically, what happens is after the tree is infected and that mold basically forces the resins out, the tree is then processed by cutting it down, processing it into smaller pieces. The tree will be chopped down, and then it'll be processed into little chips like this. Now, once you have the little chips like this, these little chips can be soaked and placed into water. So when they're soaked in water, some companies actually opt to introduce certain yeast cultures into the wood chips. Now, when they do this, they actually are doing it to promote a certain aromatic component or fragrant family. So they might want a more fruity nature or a more honey nature to the wood. So they might add a certain yeast culture. Now, I don't know the specifics about that, but I guess if you guys want to find out, I can do more digging. Now, after this, they then go on to actually process the oud into oil, or sorry, the agarwood into oud oil. Now, the traditional method of doing this is actually taking all of these little. The traditional way would be to take little wood chips like this, put it into a big pot of water in a copper or stainless steel still, and then boil it. Now, by boiling it and then condensing that water, you then have a liquid with two layers. You have this floral, woody, more aqueous layer, which is this kind of compound that's usually used in fragrance, cosmetics, and some rituals, at least traditionally in the East. Okay? And then on the top, you have this very thin, small layer of dehen al-oud, which refers to fat of the wood in Arabic. And that is actual pure oud. So that's basically how they would process it back in the day, and some people might still do that today. Now, for the most part, in most of the oud you get, they actually use the second method. The second method is steam distillation. Steam distillation actually goes and takes this and passes steam through it. Now, by doing that, it's a lot more gentler, and this results in a lot less of a harsh oud in the end. Now, that's going to be the one they use the most and the most, easy way to process. And then you have the third way. This is called fractional distillation. Now, fractional distillation is what ultra. Okay. And then you have fractional distillation. This third method and final method is how ultra niche and ultra luxury brands are going to process agarwood into oud. Now, this means controlling both the pressure and the temperature, and you're going to be preventing volatile reactions, and you're going to help separate the aromatic oils in different layers to kind of get different notes. Meaning, if they are focused on getting a more floral oud, they can do just that by doing this process. Now, throughout this entire process, whether you're doing hydrodistillation, you're doing steam distillation, or fractional distillation, you're starting off, say, with about 70 to 100 kilograms of agarwood, or for our Americans, that's 140 to 220 pounds of agarwood, sorry. You're only getting 20 to 30 milliliters of oud oil. These are all 10 mLs. So from 220 pounds of this wood, by refining it, you only get a max of 3 of these. So it's a lot of work that goes into making a little bit. That's probably why some companies pay up to $50,000 for oud, because it's not a cheap ingredient. So what's the difference between agarwood and oud? Now, agarwood can actually be processed in a couple of ways. Let me just get rid of these. Now those bottles are tossed to the side. Let's talk about agarwood and why and how fragrances actually have an agarwood note or accord. Now, companies like Givaudan actually have a agarwood accord that they actually sell to people. Like it's called Black Agar 215 or something like that. But basically, that is a licensed and, trademarked agarwood accord by Givaudan. And then you have companies that might take something like Cypriol and might mix in some woody and leathery aspects to it in order to basically create an oud accord. So those are just some ways you get an agarwood component. And then you have molecules like agarol, oudine, and ambermax that are also basically in this process and formulas that give you these oud accords. Now, you do have some companies that actually use real oud. There's Oud Asafia by DSM Firmenich, which is the oud that is probably in Creed Oud Zaryan, and it's an actual oud. They just have established relationship with the Jalali family, and if you look at Creed's newest fragrance and you look at the boxes, they report using a oud from the Jalali family. If they're using that oud, it doesn't necessarily mean that it just contains that oud. Could mean that it's just a fraction of that oud, and with that oud fractionate, they're then creating more notes and adding to it to make that oud accord, and then selling you a oud fragrance that doesn't have a ton of oud. Now, that's pretty much it for how oud is made and processed, guys. And now you know why it's so expensive. We process so much to get so little. So guys, if you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you guys for sticking around and watching. I do appreciate it. Now, if you want to win this bottle of Scepter Amazonite, which is a clone of Legem Fakar by Bulgari, and I think it's a pretty darn good one at that. This has black musk, a synthetic oud accord, blah, blah, blah. But this one is great. So if you want to win, all you guys got to do is like the video, comment your favorite oud-inspired fragrance, whether it's actual oud, a synthetic oud, agarwood, whatever. And make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Guys, if you do all that, I will randomly choose a person. I don't select anyone. I just close my eyes, pick a name out of a hat, and I select whoever comes up. Now, if you enjoyed my video, guys, please let me know what else you want to see, what else other things you want to hear about. If you found this video interesting and you want more content like that, please comment down below, guys. I appreciate your support. I'll see you guys next time. Spray smart.